That is mind-blowing how well this climbs for what it is. That I actually PR'd / KOM'd the West Willow Creek climb. Hey everyone, MinerBiker here. Gorgeous morning, and it is time for ride number 2 on the Sal Peak 2.0. Time to go grind it up West Willow Creek and then descend down Red Canyon. We're gonna see how this thing does on a long, pretty slow, just grinding road climb, and then a descent down a steep, tight, twisty, ruffle horse trail, which is a pretty typical style ride for me. So gotta see if this thing can do it or not. So here we go, let's see what it can do. After 3 miles and a little over 500 feet of gradual climbing, now we're starting up into the West Willow Creek Canyon. Climbing's not very gradual anymore. Another about 1.25 miles up, over to 1,000 feet. 500 feet and it's barely over a mile. It's doing just fine. And when pedaling, this thing does not feel like a 170mm travel bike. I will say I do have the shock locked out for this road climb, just for that little tiny bit more pedaling efficiency, but honestly it's not needed. This bike would pedal just fine even with the shock open. That first ride on the Richfield trails, I climbed over 2,000 feet total on that ride and never locked out the shock, and it did just fine. Another 2 miles and 1,000 feet up. We're at 6.5 miles and just over 2,000 vertical now into the ride. Man, it is mind-blowingly good how this bike is climbing this. This is a steep road. It's a steep grind. I've ridden this many times on several different bikes. Everything from my Kings Peak hardtail with the 29 plus wheels to my old La Sal, to some old Rocky Mountains I used to have, and this big super enduro bike is climbing this just as well as the best of those did. Pretty incredible for what this thing is. I'll turn off the Red Canyon. .8 miles, 2,900 feet. And wow, did this big monster bike do good getting up that. That is mind-blowing how well this climbs for what it is. One last steep little climb right here. That's a steep bugger on anything. Up we go.
Alrighty, here's where we drop into Red Canyon. Oh man, I just can't say enough about how good this bike just climbed up that steep road. And we're talking, you climb probably 2,500 feet in, I don't know, maybe four-ish miles or so. That's a grind. And I think climbed right up it. I had the shock locked out, but I didn't need to. It made a little bit of difference, especially when you're standing up and cranking. You can feel it just a little bit more supportive, but man, it's crazy how supportive that 170 mil travel is, even with the shock unlocked. It's just awesome. Anyways, here we are at the top of Red Canyon. I'm not gonna video the whole canyon. This is about the bike, not the trail we're riding necessarily. I did a full video on Red Canyon a couple weeks ago, like a month ago now. Check that one out, that'll be linked in the cards. All the lovely smoke out here in the valley from the fire over by Fillmore. Thankfully, I'm just on the north side of where the smoke's hanging. Hopefully the wind keeps it over there till I'm done. Here we go, let's point this thing down this tight, squirrely, sketchy trail and see how she does. There's been cows in here. Hopefully I ain't torn it up too bad. Her handles with big compression is nice. So smooth through them. trees come down since I cleared it. Times like that, I'm so used to an instant engagement hub, I get thrown off half ratcheting with a non-instant hub. I don't get as much out of it as I'm used to getting. What throws me off? A few of those little techy punchy climbs. Some critter down there. I've had a few of those little techy punchy climbs I haven't got today. It's not the bike itself, it's mostly my being so used to an instant hub. On a hub that's not instant, it's throwing me off where I'm not cleaning some of the stuff I normally would. Pretty the difference, you notice. As you can see, Red Canyon's pretty tight, twisty, techy, steep. Not your conventional bike trail, certainly, but that's a very typical style of trail for me to ride, which is why I wanted to bring this bike and do it, see how I could do on it. And I have to say, it did very well. I mean, you could, I probably only actually used the full capability of this bike as far as its travel goes a couple of times down that, and just some of the harsh hits into the wash and stuff. The rest of the time, obviously, I wasn't exactly stretching this bike's legs out all the way, but it handled it just fine. Some of the really tight corners, this one almost actually felt a little bit better, which I think is because it's a size smaller. And even with the half-degree slacker head angle, I think it still has a tiny bit shorter wheelbase than my size large. I love how good this thing does when you want to stand up and kind of sprint up something. A lot of full suspension bikes, especially long travel bikes, you want to stand up and sprint, and they want to suck up a huge amount of the energy that you're putting in. They just absorb it. This thing feels like it transfers your power. Very good for the bike it is, while the wheel still tracks the ground very well to maintain traction. Come on, you little wind. Trying to maintain speed here. Alright, here we are back at the truck at the end of the ride. All total we did just over 18 miles and a little bit over 3,100 vertical feet. And that was very good, very informative. I was really interested to see how this bike performed on a ride like that, because that, again, that is a very typical style of ride for me, with a big, grinding climb to a backcountry, steep, sketchy, rough descend on a trail that's not built for mountain bikes necessarily. And honestly, the thing performed amazing. I'm still just blown away by how well it climbed up that steep, long, steady road. It's just a grind, and that thing climbed up it so well for what it is. Oh my good heavens, that climbed up that road better than shorter travel bikes that I've climbed that same road on, which is just incredible. And then it was awesome coming downhill. It was fun coming down Red Canyon. It handled that tight, steep, sketchy descending really well. I mean, actually, I used the full travel of it probably twice down that whole canyon, just on a couple of big G-out hits into the wash, but it handled everything really well. All the steep, loose, sketchy stuff, it was just fine and composed. It almost felt a little bit better than my old La Sal on the couple of tight switchbacks. I think it's because it's this size smaller frame. The wheelbase is a tiny bit shorter, so it actually felt like it twisted around those tight corners a little bit better, which was interesting. And yeah, overall, I am so impressed with this bike. This thing's awesome. I'm not being biased because I'm a Fezzari ambassador. I am genuinely really impressed with this bike. So, I mean, obviously, if you're somebody who very rarely, if ever, in your riding is gonna, push this bike to what it's fully capable of, then no, it's not the bike for you. Go with like the Delano Peak or something that's a little shorter travel, that's gonna suit your riding more. But if you are somebody who, on at least a fairly regular occasion, you're actually gonna, push your bike to the full capability of what this bike can do, use its full travel and stuff like that, I can't hardly find anything to say bad about it, other than it can still only fit one water bottle, but that's a non-issue for most people, and I could figure out a way to work around it. We'll keep testing her out some more on some more stuff, start working on a full overview, full recap review video. So fun, great ride, love riding Red Canyon. Glad I was able to stay out of the smoke a little bit and just keep having a great time on this amazing bike. So thanks for watching, everybody. If you subscribed, thank you. If you haven't, I invite you to do so. Leave us a comment down below, like that hit button. Make sure to check out Fezzari Bicycles and keep digging up new places to ride. Back home, I was looking at my Strava, and I very surprisingly noticed that I actually PR'd/KOM'd the West Willow Creek climb from the bottom up to Red Canyon, 1 hour and 4 minutes. That's 3 minutes faster than my previous fastest time, which was on my Kings Peak about 2 months ago. It was 1 hour and 7 minutes. I cannot believe I actually got my fastest time ever grinding up that road, up that canyon on that monster. That is incredible.